All right, so AI winning a physics Nobel Prize, what's the connection? You might be thinking that. It's a real head scratcher.
Yeah.
But that's why we're doing a deep dive today.
It's an interesting one for sure. At the core of it all is this groundbreaking work on something called neural networks.
Neural networks, so those computer systems that learn kind of like a brain.
Exactly. And this idea has been around for a while, but back in the 80s, John Hopfield, one of our Nobel Prize winners, his work was really pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Imagine you show a computer a blurry picture, like let's say a sunflower. Now, Hopfield's work enabled the computer to actually make a pretty good guess about what that image should look like, even with all that blur.
So like giving a computer a very basic understanding of patterns.
Exactly.
But Hopfield's work was just the beginning, right? That's where our other Nobel Prize winner comes in, Geoffrey Hinton.
Precisely. Hinton, he figured out how to basically make these neural networks much, much smarter.
How so?
By introducing something called, get this, hidden layers.
Hidden layers. Okay, now you're just using big words to sound smart. What does that even mean?
Okay, so think of it like this. Imagine a detective who's trying to crack a case, right? They have the basic facts, the evidence, so to speak. But then there's also intuition, deduction, making those connections that aren't immediately obvious. That's kind of what these hidden layers do for AI.
So it's not just recognizing a blurry sunflower anymore. Now it's more about understanding, like the sunflower in context.
Exactly. Hidden layers, they allow AI to analyze data on a much deeper, more nuanced way. And it's the reason AI can do some pretty amazing things these days.
Sounds like it.
Generating those crazy realistic images, real-time translation, or even predicting stuff like the stock market.
It's wild. Okay, but hold on a second. We're talking about a physics Nobel Prize. So far, we've only mentioned AI and brains. Where does physics actually fit into this whole picture?
Well, it turns out that the principles behind neural networks are actually deeply rooted in physics.
Okay, so how so?
Well, there are three main types of physics that play a role.
Hit me.
Biophysics, statistical physics, and computational physics.
Okay, let's break that down a bit. Biophysics, so that's the connection to the brain, right?
Exactly. Taking inspiration from nature's most powerful computer. By studying how our brains work, how they process information, we get insights into building more efficient and powerful AI systems.
Makes sense. What about statistical physics? Where does that fit in?
So imagine you have this giant jigsaw puzzle, but instead of a few hundred pieces, we're talking millions, maybe even billions. That's kind of the scale of data that AI has to deal with, and statistical physics gives us the tools to actually make sense of all that data.
To find patterns, extract insights, that kind of thing.
You got it.
Okay, so we've got the brain inspiration with biophysics, the data crunching with statistical physics. What about computational physics? What's that all about?
Computational physics, think of that as the powerhouse behind it all. You see, to build and run these AI models we've been talking about, it requires an immense amount of processing power.
Because it's such complex stuff.
Exactly. And computational physics, it provides the techniques, the tools to actually create and operate these systems.
So it gives AI the muscle to do its thing.
Exactly. And this actually brings us to a pretty interesting story about a tech giant you might be familiar with, Nvidia.
Nvidia, the graphics card company. What do they have to do with AI?
More than you might think. It turns out that Geoffrey Hinton, one of our Nobel laureates back in 2009, he saw the potential of Nvidia's GPUs.
You mean those things that give us super realistic graphics in video games?
The very same. What many people don't realize is that these GPUs are also really good at the complex math that makes AI tick. They can process tons of data super fast.
So Hinton, he was ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
He realized that these GPUs were basically an untapped gold mine for AI research.
Exactly. In fact, he actually reached out to Nvidia hoping to get, well, a free GPU to help with his research.
What did Nvidia say?
They turned him down.
No way. They turned down a future Nobel Prize winner.
Believe it or not, they did.
Wow. Talk about a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
So what did Hinton do?
Well, he was resourceful. He found a way to use their GPUs anyway, and that's where things get really interesting. But we'll save that part of the story for after a quick break.
So wait, he found a way. How do you even use their GPUs if they're not giving them to you?
Well, he figured it out, and in 2012, he and his students had this big breakthrough. They built a neural network using NVIDIA's GPUs and this platform they had called CUDA, and this neural network, it could actually teach itself to recognize images.
So he basically proved what Nvidia's tech was capable of, even when they didn't see it themselves.
It was a real game changer. After that, Nvidia, they quickly realized the potential of their own hardware.
Yeah, I bet they did. I mean, talk about a light bulb moment. Suddenly, everyone wants a piece of the AI pie.
Exactly. And that's how Nvidia went from this gaming company to this global tech giant almost overnight. And to think, it all started with this one scientist and his vision for what AI could be.
It's amazing how these things happen. But let's bring it back to neural networks. Can you give me some real-world examples of this technology in action? Like, how does this actually show up in our everyday lives?
Oh, absolutely. Think about something like using your smartphone, right? You ask it for directions, or maybe you're using a voice assistant. That's all powered by these neural networks.
Really? So all that stuff happening behind the scenes is basically what Hopfield and Hinton's work made possible.
Exactly. And it goes even further than that. Those personalized recommendations you get on your favorite streaming service, or even spam filters that keep all that junk out of your inbox, that's all thanks to neural networks too. Even some medical diagnoses are being made with the help of these algorithms.
Wow, I had no idea it was so pervasive.
It really is. And when you think about it like that, it really highlights the impact of their work.
Absolutely. It's like these abstract concepts, they're actually having a real tangible impact on the world.
And this is just the beginning. The future of AI has so much more in store, from revolutionizing things like medicine and transportation, even tackling huge issues like climate change.
It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it, and a little bit daunting, right? This incredible power coming from something as fundamental as physics.
It's true, but with great power comes great responsibility, as they say. As we venture deeper into this age of AI, it's crucial to remember that this technology is a tool. It can be used for good or for bad.
So it's not just about the scientific advancements themselves, but about the ethical considerations, the societal impact. How do we make sure we're using this technology responsibly?
Exactly. It's a conversation we need to be having at every level, from education to policy making.
One thing I found interesting in this article, it mentioned that some people out there, they actually think this work by Hopfield and Hinton, it's more math and computer science than physics. So where do we even draw the line between disciplines these days? It seems like everything is so interconnected.
That's a great point. And it really highlights how our understanding of the world often comes from multiple perspectives coming together. It's not always so clear-cut.
It's like those Venn diagrams we all saw in school, but instead of just subjects, we're talking about entire branches of science overlapping and intersecting.
Exactly. And AI, it's a perfect example of this. You've got biology inspiring the architecture of neural networks, physics providing the underlying principles of how they operate, and of course, computer science providing the tools we need to actually build and run these complex systems.
So maybe the real breakthrough is realizing that it's not about compartmentalizing knowledge, but embracing the connections.
Precisely. And who knows what other surprising connections and unexpected consequences are out there waiting to be discovered? What other seemingly unrelated fields might hold the key to the next big breakthrough in AI?
It really makes you think. Speaking of which, this article, it brings up a good point, right? Some folks think this work by Hopfield and Hinton, it's more like math and computer science, not really physics. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a question that comes up all the time in academia. Like, where do you even draw the line? When does one discipline end and another begin?
It's true. Where do you draw that line?
It's not always so easy, is it? And this whole thing with AI, it really highlights how interconnected it all is. You need all these different perspectives to understand how the world works.
Yeah, because you've got biology informing how these neural networks are structured. Physics is in there with how they actually work. And then computer science comes in to make them a reality. It's pretty wild.
Exactly. You can't just stick these things in neat little boxes anymore, can you? The most groundbreaking stuff, it always seems to happen at the intersection of different fields.
Like, who would have thought, right?
Yeah.
That these three fields would come together like this. It makes you wonder, what other connections are we missing?
That's the exciting part, isn't it? There's always something new to uncover, some other path to go down. And with AI, I think we're just getting started. This is really just the beginning.
It's like we're standing at the edge of something massive. And this Nobel Prize, it's like a signpost, showing us the way forward.
I love that analogy. And as we keep moving forward, I think the biggest thing to remember is this. AI, it has this immense potential to change the world, but ultimately it's up to us, to humanity, to steer it in the right direction.
I'm with you on that one. Because it's powerful, right? But like any powerful tool, it can be used in a lot of different ways. So how do we make sure it's used for good?
It's all about the choices we make. It's about asking the tough questions, considering the ethical implications, and making sure those conversations are happening everywhere, not just in academic circles.
So to our listener out there, as we enter this new age of AI, I think it's important to approach it with open eyes. Ask questions, be critical, and remember that we all have a part to play in shaping how this technology impacts our world.
Well said. It's a future that we're all creating together.
Absolutely. And on that note, thanks for joining us for this deep dive. It's been quite the conversation.
Until next time, keep exploring and keep asking questions. There's a whole world of fascinating knowledge out there waiting to be discovered.